Okay, so good evening, class, and this will be our last topic for our midterm. We already talked about assaults, crimes on public disorders. Now we will talk about evasion of service. Now, the crimes on evasion of service covers Article 157 until Article 160. Now let's go to 157, evasion of service. So what do you mean by evasion of service? This is where an offender who is a convict by final judgment. So when we say a convict of final judgment, there is no pending appeal anymore. No, the case is no longer pending appeal. So he is already adjudged guilty by the court. And then he is serving his sentence, which consists in deprivation of liberty, meaning the sentence that was given to him by final judgment is imprisonment. Because sometimes um, the sentence or um, the punishment is sometimes in the form of fines. However, for Article 157 to be applicable, the sentence he must be serving his sentence, which is imprisonment, and he evades the service of sentence by escaping during the term of sentence. When we say mo evade ning isang dili siya gusto mo serve sa isang sentence by escaping during the term of his sentence. So when we say escape, that is to flee from or to avoid, to get out of the way, that is escape. And Article 157 is applicable to the sentence of destierro. What is destierro? Destierro means not being able to go to a certain place or not being able to go to a certain area within a number of miles or kilometers. Dili ka pwede mo anha. That is destierro, and Article 157 is applicable even if the sentence is destierro. So because destierro is still a deprivation of liberty. So again, under 157, basically mutakas ang usa ka preso by final judgment, dili na ni detainee but a convict. So what qualifies Article 157? Number 1, if the means of evasion is by means of unlawful entry or scaling. What is unlawful entry or scaling? That is, you climb the walls of the prison facility. So, mo qualify, meaning mas mabugat. And then, another qualifying circumstance by breaking doors, windows, gates, walls, roofs, or floors. And then another is by using picklocks, false keys, disguise, deceit, violence, or intimidation, and or through connivance with other convicts or employees of the penal institution. So, mauni ang mga acts nga maka-qualify or mas makabugat sa crime of evasion of service of sentence. Again, what you need to remember, um, evasion of service of sentence is only applicable against a person who is convicted by final judgment and not merely a detainee. Okay. Now let's go to punishment. You have to remember that the penalty for evasion of service is prison correctional if you escape during the term of your imprisonment in its medium ra. But if you evade your service with the qualifying circumstances that I mentioned, it would be prison correctional in the maximum. Okay. Then let's go to Article 158, evasion on occasions of disorder. Just like what happened during the Yolanda. If you remember, there were prisoners who evaded their service of sentence when the storm broke the penal facility. Okay. So what is evasion on occasion of disorders? The offender is a convict, again by final judgment, who is confined in a penal institution. So again, convict of final judgment, not merely a detainee. And then there is disorder. No, naikagubot because of a conflagration, earthquake, explosion, similar catastrophe, or mutiny in which he has not participated. So when we say mutiny, it's an unlawful resistance to a superior officer. For example, nagsabot ang mga priso nga magrally sila, manggubot sila dito sa prisohan. And sa pagkagubot, nangaabli ang mga prison cells ng laga, ang tanan nga ng takas in the occasion of the mutiny, pwede liable under 158. Now, because the offender evades the service of sentence by leaving the penal institution where he is confined on the occasion of such disorder or during the mutiny, and the offender fails to give himself up to the authorities within 48 hours following the issuance of a proclamation by the chief executive announcing the passing away of such calamity. Now, this is important, no? So, for example, in the case of Yolanda, it happened on November 8th. Diba? Nag-storm surge and then daghang there were many it was a hubris. There were many debris flying all over and then moto nga nakatakas ang mga priso somewhere in Tacloban. Now, basically, they have to save themselves. So, pag lunop, nangita sila somewhere nga they would be safe. So, murag ning lurang-lurang ang Yolanda, let's say November 10. So, pag lurang sa Yolanda at November 10, it was announced nga wa na ang calamity. So, dapat, for example, it was announced nga there was no calamity anymore on November 10. Within 48 hours from November 10, they have to surrender back. No, they have to surrender back. 48 hours is basically 2 days. No, they have to surrender back within 48 hours. If they do not surrender within 48 hours, then they would be liable under Article 158. So there are two circumstances that Article 158 is applicable. Number one, if they evade the sentence during the disorder, intentionally, di na sila mo balik, and or if na-evade, nakagawas na sila because of a catastrophe, and then they did not give themselves up to the authorities after 48 hours. So, kinahanglan nga, mo surrender sila og balik, no, to the authorities within 48 hours if wa na ang calamity. So, if dili sila mo surrender within 48 hours, then liable sila under 158. So, if dili sila mo surrender within 48 hours, the punishment is increase of 1/5 of the time still remaining to be served under the original sentence. But in no case shall exceed 6 months. No? So, kung for example, napakay 2 year, butang tag 2 years, no? So, 24 months, 1/5 ana, more or less, mga 2 months. So, nakay additional 2 months because of failing to give up yourself within 48 hours. Kay basically, pangitaon man jud ka. Kay convicted man lagi ka. However, if you give yourself up within 48 hours, ma-reduce og 1/5 ang imong punishment pod. So, madali-dali ka og dali-dali ka kagawas if you surrender yourself after 48 hours. Okay. Now, let's go to Article 159. This is violation of conditional pardon. What is conditional pardon? That is a contract between the chief executive or the president who grants the pardon and the convict who accepts it. Sometimes usually the president gives unconditional pardon, meaning kanang pardon, that is the choice of the president nga isang i-forgive. No, he forgives the sin. That's not the sin. He forgives the crime. He forgives the crime, and then if you are pardoned, erase na ng klase sa penalty, just like Pemberton who killed Laude. So he was pardoned, absolute pardon. However, there is also what we call conditional pardon. Ang kanang conditional pardon na ay mga conditions ihatag ang president. So sa conditional pardon, uh, basically under 159, you violated any of the conditions of the pardon. And if you violate any of the conditions of the pardon, then you can be rearrested under Article 59, and then you will serve the unexpired portion of the original sentence. For example, yung sentence is 12 years, and then ning break ka sa condition sa pardon, and then 1 year pa ka na pardon. So you will serve the 11 years for violating the conditions of the pardon. So basically, that's violation of conditional pardon under Article 159. And then we have Article 160, commission of another crime during service of penalty imposed for another previous crime. So this is what we basically call quasi-recidivism. So what is quasi-recidivism? He is a offender who is already convicted by final judgment of one offense, and he committed a new felony before beginning to serve such sentence or while serving the same. So for example, napriso siya for theft. So while nasa sa prisohan, nag-serve sa sentence, nakapatay siya og priso. So that is quasi-recidivism. So duha na, instead of theft ra nga, for example 2 years ra isang imprisonment, tungod sa quasi-recidivism, tungod kay nakapatay siya, ang penalty would be on the maximum. Kaya usually, ang homicide is 12 to 20 years naman. But because he is a quasi-recidivist, nakaksa siya while nag-serve sa sentence, then he would be serving the maximum of 20 years. So, bali, duha na isang crime, quasi-recidivism, and homicide. So, that is evasion of service covering Article 157 until Article 160. Now, this will be still part of our midterm coverage, and if you have questions, you can chat me in our group chat. That would be all. Thank you, and have a good day.